This is a Singer 201K3. In this video, I will show you how to properly wind a bobbin, properly insert a needle, and finally thread up and sew with this machine. Stay tuned until the end, and I'll also show you how to fix a couple common stitch problems we sometimes see. Let's get started. This is a Class 66 bobbin. Very common, easy to find and buy new ones, sometimes at your local fabric store even. That's the kind of bobbin you want to use with your 201. This here is the bobbin winder, and on this model, when we're ready to wind a bobbin, we press it down against the hand wheel like that. If we entirely fill the bobbin, this little finger here will raise up, and eventually the bobbin winder will just spring away from the machine all by itself. If we don't want to fill the bobbin all the way, then all we have to do is just raise it like that. So let's wind this bobbin. You want to make sure that you have plugged in your machine first. Now, before we wind the bobbin, we want to engage the stop motion feature. That's done simply by holding the hand wheel still, grabbing the silver knob here and turning it counterclockwise until it stops. This needs to be done before we wind a bobbin so that while we are winding it, the needle bar isn't moving up and down unnecessarily. Now let's get this bobbin on. So even though there's a spool pin on the top of the machine, we're actually going to put our spool of thread on this spool pin. And you just set it on. If you look at your bobbin, you'll see there's holes on both sides. Take the thread. I like to do this before I put it on the bobbin winder. I just feel like it's easier. But take your thread and starting on the inside of the bobbin, poke it out through one of those little holes on the top of the bobbin, just like that. And give yourself a little tail there. Now we can put the bobbin onto the bobbin winder. Do you see a hole in your bobbin? So there's two, one on each side. If you spin your bobbin winder, you should see a little pin on the bobbin winder itself. Right here is where the pin is. I want to make sure that the hole here goes onto that pin. Now I'm going to press my bobbin winder so it's up against the hand wheel, and you'll see this little finger comes down. Now the bobbin can't fly off while it's winding. Let's take care of this thread and get it in the proper thread path now. This is our bobbin winder tensioner, and it should have a little springiness to it here. Do you see how I can pull this like away from the body of the tensioner? The thread's going to go behind that. So I'm just going to take my thread and slide it behind, just like that. Give everything a little tug. This is ready to wind now. You'll want to hold on to the tail so it doesn't get stuck in the thread that's winding on the bobbin, and then you can press your foot control and wind your bobbin. Now, my advice is don't do this super fast. Bad things can happen. We're not in a rush. Let's go ahead and wind the bobbin now. Now you can stop at any point and cut this little tail off. Once you have enough thread on your bobbin, you can just pop the little lever up and the bobbin winder will disengage and you have your bobbin wound. You can put as much thread as you want until the bobbin is full. I'm not putting a lot because this is just a demonstration, but I want to talk to you about something. If you notice that your bobbin isn't winding evenly, if there's more thread on one side or the other, down here, this is adjustable. So let's say that the right side was loading more than the left side. What I would do is unscrew the little screw here and slide this a little bit more to the left, and that would make it so the left side of the bobbin would wind for me. The same would be true if you notice that the right side wasn't as full. You would slide it to the right, and then just make sure you tighten the screw back down. So we have a bobbin. It's got thread on it. Let's get it into the machine. So these bobbins just drop into the bobbin case for the 201. You'll have a little slide plate here. You just open it like that, and the bobbin just drops in right here. But make sure before you drop it in that the way that the thread is coming off the bobbin, so when you're unwinding it, it's going counterclockwise. This is me winding it up. This is clockwise. Unwinding it is counterclockwise. Give yourself a little bit of a tail and just drop it into the bobbin case. Then you're going to pull the thread and it's going to come around to the left of the bobbin case, and right here is a little cutout the thread's going to go into. Pull it all the way over, give it a little tug, make sure it spins, and go ahead and close up your slide plate just like that. This is ready now to be pulled up with the needle and the upper thread. Let's put a needle in. You want to make sure that the needle bar is up as high as it will go. And by the way, the little stop motion knob on the end of the hand wheel that we turned counterclockwise, turn it back clockwise again so you can get your needle bar to move again. I forgot to tell you that. So needle in the highest position. Here's my needle. Our needles have a flat side. The flat side of the needle on a 201 goes to the left. So you have a flat side on this curved needle plate here. That's how your needle goes in. It's just a great little reminder of which way the needle goes. So you're going to slide the needle up into the needle clamp, making sure your flat side is to the left. And then you're going to tighten down the needle clamp right here. You can check. You should be able to see enough of the needle once it's in the clamp that you can still see the flat side a little bit. So if you're not sure, just get in there and double check. Here I can still see the flat of the needle. I know it's in the right way. Now threading the machine is pretty simple. It's not complicated at all. We're going to set our thread, our spool of thread up on top of the machine. I better turn it this way. And we're going to run it over the front of the machine and just tuck the thread behind this first thread guide right here. Now we're ready to run it down through our tension assembly. Make sure that the foot, your presser foot, is up when you do this. Right here on your tension assembly, this little piece is meant to help you guide your thread in between the two tension discs on the tension assembly. Make sure that it goes in between those two discs. Let me show you from a different angle. So I have my thread. Here are my two tension discs right here. And I'm just sliding it and making sure that the thread goes between both of them. Then I'm going to put my thumb right here on the thread so it will not pull any more off the spool. And I'm going to pull the thread up. And do you see this little spring right here? I'm going to pull it up and watch this spring. Did you hear that click? Now look how the thread is laying right here. That means that I have threaded the tension assembly properly. Don't forget to pull the spring up with the thread behind it until you hear that click. And you can see the thread right there. It's kind of caught on this little finger. It's threaded properly. Now we can take our thread and run it through the eye on our thread take-up. Just like that. Now we still have 3 thread guides left. One is right here on the side of the nose. We're just going to pop it behind it like that. We have another thread guide right here. We're going to tuck it behind that. And then over here on this side of the needle is one more. So we're going to pop it behind that thread guide as well. Now we can thread the needle, and that is just done right to left. There we go. Let's pull this out. Our needle is threaded. Now we're ready to pull up this lower thread through the needle plate. And let's open this so you can see everything happen. I'm going to hold my needle thread and I'm going to turn the hand wheel by hand. It's going to go down. The thread has caught, and just like that. Did you see the thread go over the bobbin case? We can pull this up and our machine is threaded. Go ahead and close that and pull your tails to the back. Now let's make a couple stitches. So in the 201, we have adjustable stitch length, and we also have reverse. So if I'm sewing, say 12 stitches an inch, if I just slide this little knob up, it won't go any further now down than 12. So when I throw this machine up to sew in reverse, and then I want to quickly go back to my 12 an inch, this little regulator right here keeps me at 12. If I want to sew at 6 stitches per inch, the longest one, I just push it all the way down and now we'll go down all the way. So make sure you know what stitch length you want before you start sewing, so then you don't even have to think about it. It's locked into place for you. So we'll do 12 here. Now to sew, we just make sure our foot is up, slide the fabric under the foot, lower the foot. Now we want to make sure we have our tension set correctly, so I'm going to sew a little line of stitching on 12 an inch and we'll see what we have. I think that's good. I'm going to go down to the longest stitch. Make sure your needle's up and we can pull the fabric away. Now, to me, this stitch is a little bit tight. I feel like there's some puckering, some gathering here. And I really think it's from the upper tension, not the lower tension, because I've already fixed the lower tension on this machine. So if my fabric looks puckery, it's because I have my tension set too high here on the upper tension. And when you are not sure, sewing a longer stitch length is a really good way to check that upper tension. So I've backed it off a little bit. I'm going to sew another row of stitches on the longest stitch. That second row is definitely better, but I want to show you something else. I'm restoring this machine for a customer, so I've been test stitching on it all morning, and I want to show you this stitch right here. So I was using a lighter color pink thread and my bobbin thread was red. Do you see these little red dots where my bobbin thread is being pulled up to the top of my project? That is a bobbin tension issue that I had to fix. And I'm going to show you how you fix that if you see that on your stitches. We're going to slide open the bobbin slide plate. And if you look on your bobbin case, there are two little screws. The bigger of the two, it's right here, that can be tightened or loosened. My bobbin thread that was popping up on the top of that stitch was because I had not tightened that screw enough. If you get those stitches where you're seeing the thread from the bobbin pop up on top of your project, try tightening down that screw. Usually that will fix your stitch problem. And of course, if you want to sew in reverse, you're sewing along. Just make it go in reverse, just like that. Aren't these great? I did not want to miss an opportunity to show you all such a beautiful machine and also how to thread and sew on one. I hope you learned something maybe about your stitches. I think this machine needs a little more tweaking. I'm not happy with this upper tension yet. I got perfect tension at a 2. I really would prefer to have it at a 3. That's just me. Let me know what you think if you learned anything new. I'm gonna miss this machine when it's gone. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.